Hi Paris Group, my name is Tom and this week we're looking at the role governance and institutions play in environmental management. My presentation will also explore if effective environmental governance is possible in a multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency context. The case study I'll be using to assess the effectiveness of this multi-agency approach is the management of the Murray-Darling Basin System of Australia. But first, let's quickly look at why environmental governance is needed, the different compliance regimes and their drivers. Managing the environment and natural resources is often a messy task with no clear solution. The interconnectedness of ecosystems with social, economic and political systems can result in unpredictable ramifications and cascades extending far beyond the initial issue. Environmental governance is the socio-political frameworks that influence the environmental actions and outcomes through processes, mechanisms, and organisations. Due to the subjectiveness of the environment's value, environmental governance is both informed by and impacts upon other human services such as economic development and health, to name a few. Environmental governance can be present in several forms such as legislations, regulations, conventions, voluntary regimes, and self-regulation. Legislations or laws must be passed through the parliamentary process. Governmental departments and authorities can then use these laws to define regulations specific to their field of authority. Laws carry penalties for non-compliance, usually in the form of financial compensation, criminal persecution, and prohibition from involvement in the industry into the future. These penalties, or threats, are the mechanisms used as the driving force for actors to comply with laws and regulations. Conventions are generally accepted standards or ways of doing things that can be thought of as unwritten laws. They are tools for promoting cooperation and often promote the development of international environmental law and actions. Non-compliance with conventions is often met with sanctions of exclusion. Voluntary regimes and self-governance are forms of decentralised governance mechanisms where the onus is placed on actors operating within the industry. Often the market drives actors to these mechanisms in order to gain an industry or marketing advantage over competitors by providing best practice or appealing to public perceptions. As we have learnt in previous weeks, an important facet of complex adaptive systems management is understanding the values and knowledge of stakeholders and broadening participation by involving them in the decision-making process as well as the management of the system itself. Therefore, adopting a spectrum of compliance regimes that appeals to the different motivations held by stakeholders and actors within the system can be critical to effective environmental governance. By appealing to these different motivators, governance can guide individual actions to the desired holistic outcomes. Adding to the complexity of management and governance, environmental issues often occur over jurisdictional boundaries, triggering differing legislations, regulations, authorities, and stakeholders. Effective environmental governance requires aligning these differing mechanisms and stakeholders to be complementary rather than competitive. An example is the Murray-Darling Basin System of Australia. It covers 14% of Australia's area within Queensland, New South Wales, ACT, Victoria and South Australia. It is home to 2.2 million people, including 40 different First Nations, internationally significant ecosystems and 40% of Australia's agricultural produce. Located in 5 different states, the system has been subject to multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency approaches since federation, but management has been unsuccessful in fulfilling the needs of stakeholders while maintaining system health. Fish deaths, salinity, algal blooms, and acidic soils are just some of the issues facing the system today. To tackle this wicked problem, in 2007, the government passed the Water Act. A requirement of this act was the creation of the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, who were responsible for the development of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. A primary objective of this plan was limiting how much water could be used by industries and communities while leaving enough to sustain healthy ecosystems. A complex adaptive systems approach was taken during developing the plan and incorporates wide stakeholder engagement, adaptive management, transparency, regular reporting, and independent reviews. The Water Act, Basin Authority, and Basin Plan do not replace existing legislations or state authorities, and they don't seek to reduce their governing power. Rather, they seek to work with basin states and provide frameworks that the states can utilise to complement existing governance frameworks and ensure a holistic approach to basin management. This year, the Water Act and Basin Plan were both amended to include a new governing authority, the Inspector General of Water Compliance. The Inspector has inquiry powers to investigate the implementation of the Water Act, the Basin Plan, and other intergovernmental agreements. This provides transparency, as the Basin Authority is no longer responsible for enforcing compliance with the Basin Plan, and can focus on plan implementation and independent monitoring and evaluation. The Basin Authority is also audited against objectives and outcomes each year. With the main goal of the Basin Plan being long-term system health, it remains to be seen whether the governance framework is successful in achieving this. However, regular monitoring and reporting has identified early improvements in ecosystem health, and more importantly, areas of failure. Historically, multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional governance of the Murray-Darling Basin has been unsuccessful. However, through applying transparency, accountability, and complex adaptive systems thinking, the current multi-agency governance is showing early signs of success.